Hi, everyone. Welcome to Jewish Teen Talk, episode 15. And I'm here this week with my husband, Shua.
Hi, everyone. Glad to be here.
And we're actually excited to introduce a new way of presenting Jewish Teen Talk, since Jewish teens include boys and girls. We are actually going to be starting with 1 week where I will be interviewing either a teen or a surprise guest on our show.
And the other week, I will be interviewing boys or guests as well. So we'll have the boys and the girls' viewpoints being represented on Jewish Teen Talk, which is a very exciting idea.
This week, Shua and I are both going to address 2 or 3 questions that have come up. And this episode is geared for boys and girls. And as of next week, we will begin 1 week on, 1 week off, interviewing boys. And then 1 week will be girls, and the next week boys. And we will alternate that way. And once in a while, we'll both come on to address questions that are relevant to boys and girls.
Okay, so the first question is, if you know a fellow teenager is doing things in secret that they shouldn't be doing, what can you do? Because it's not your place to get immediately involved. I hope that makes sense. Thank you in advance. So I think this question is really something that many, many teens can relate to. Unfortunately, we live in a world where teens are exposed to many different things that they weren't exposed to in other generations. Information is much more widely accessible. Teens are struggling with a lot more mental health struggles than they ever were before. And it's very possible for people to have and be holding friends' secrets. And so, the person who's asking the question says that it sounds like the person who is doing this thing that is harming them didn't necessarily tell the person who's asking the question what they were doing, but the person who's asking the question happened to find out somehow. And on the one hand, they want to respect the privacy of the other person, and it's not necessarily their place to get involved. They don't feel like they're a professional, maybe. But on the other hand, they feel a responsibility because it seems like, and it doesn't say this clearly in the question, but if it's something secret and something that they shouldn't be doing, it's something that's harmful, they feel a responsibility to take some sort of action because they care about their friend.
So I definitely agree that it seems like this secret that you were privy to, you weren't necessarily supposed to know, or your friend doesn't even know that you know that they're doing something that's in secret that they shouldn't be doing. And I think that the fact that you said it's not my place to get immediately involved, which also had a question as well. It was because it's not your place to get immediately involved, ? I think the fact that you're questioning that and being sensitive to that is actually a healthy boundary, that you are recognizing that if I know something that someone wants to have this idea or whatever they're doing remain hidden, is it my place to step in to help them if they're purposely keeping this thing hidden? And I think that I always go back to the idea in Torah, which speaks about that dvarim ha-yaitzim min halev nichnasim al halev, that whenever we want to be there for someone and we can speak to them from our heart, without a script, just that we really care about them. When it comes from a place like that, the Torah tells us that it enters the other person's heart and they hear it, even if they don't reciprocate right away and say, wow, thank you so much for saving me and, calling me on this. But when we do it from a really caring place and we're really, really authentic, the other person, maybe not in the moment, they won't recognize that, but it will enter their heart.
Exactly. And I think that another important point to know when to speak from your heart and when's the proper time to say something is, when there is harm being done. When a person is in danger of harming themselves or harming someone else, if someone is in danger, if a life is at risk, it's definitely no question they need to get involved. You need to say something. If a person is harming themselves, but it's not necessarily that their life is in immediate danger. So I think it's important to clarify that it really makes a difference what types of activities or behavior you're being privy to. So if it's something that you know for sure puts the person at physical harm or danger, then there's no question you must step in. You have to say something because a life is at stake. I think that when it comes to things that are hurtful to a person, but not necessarily life-threatening, then, it becomes more of a question of who would be the most helpful. Sometimes it's something that a mental health professional might need to get involved with. It's something that parents, it depending on the situation, parents might be helpful to be let known, or it might be something that, depending on the situation, other people might need to be let known, and it might not be as helpful to let the parents know.
From what I'm understanding, Shua, from what you're saying, it's my or anybody's moral responsibility that if somebody's in danger to themselves or to someone else, we need to get them help. Whether it's a secret or not, we need to step in, contact the professional that needs to be contacted, a trusted adult, the parents, your parents, whoever needs to be spoken to address this situation, because it can't just be ignored. What I'm picking up on from the question, and again, whoever sent this in, it wasn't specific to the action of what they're doing. So we're trying to approach this question from all angles. I heard in the question that it's possibly something spiritual that the person is struggling with. So it might be in secret. They are in touch with a boyfriend, or they might be dating a boyfriend. They might be not keeping Shabbos. They might be on their phone during Shabbos, or not eating kosher, and the parents don't know. I don't know if this is a religious action that's being done in secret, in hiding, or like my husband was saying, if it is a dangerous action that they're doing. So because we don't necessarily know the details and we don't know you or your friend, I would just approach this question from that angle as far as religious observance. If there's a friend that's doing something in secret, and they're doing it in secret because they know their parents won't agree, their parents won't approve, it's not what word am I looking for? It's not okay, according to halacha, according to Torah. So, what I'm thinking of is, it does sound from your question that they're doing something in secret that you know about, but you don't know if you should get involved and say to them, hey, I know what you're doing, and how can I help, or how can I be there for you? But what's coming to mind for me is in Tanya, which is extremely relevant to our generation, even though Tanya was written so many years ago. So the Alter Rebbe actually tells us, the first Hasidic Rebbe who wrote the Tanya, so that it would guide his followers from generations to come. And its relevance is so helpful to us today. So the Alter Rebbe actually talks about, in one of the chapters in Tanya where he talks about loving someone else, the Alter Rebbe, Rabbi Shneir Zalman, brings up that if you're going to tell something to someone and you care about them, and it's going to help them, it's actually going to help them change, and they're going to be open to your feedback, then you do it. You do it as a friend. You do it because you care, and you need to. because you love them and you care about them. But if what you're going to say is not going to change anything, and if anything, they're going to, you know that they're going to reject it, they're going to throw it back at you, or they're not going to be able to, accept what you're saying. And if anything, it'll drive them to do even more harm, or then it's not your place to say it. But I think in that case, so in the first case, if you're saying it to them and they will reciprocate, then again, going back to whatever words you say from your heart will enter their heart. Even if your friend is not going to say, wow, thank you so much for bringing this up. I'm so grateful to you. You're such a good friend. Let's be friends forever. So even if you don't get that reaction, but you know that you bringing this up and saying, hey, I know that there's something you're struggling with and that, a lot of people might not know about it, but I do know about it. And how can I help you? Like, maybe it would just be like, I know about it. And the fact that your friend will know that you know about it, they won't have to feel like they have to do it won't have to hide as much because someone knows about it. And you can say, look, you can trust me, but I really feel like, maybe speaking to this person or, letting your parents know. And as long as you don't have to continue doing this in secret, because if someone's doing something in secret, that means that they feel shame, and they feel shame is I am a mistake. So they're not feeling so good about themselves if they're doing something in secret. So encouraging them as a friend, a lot of times this might be too big to carry as a friend, and it might be more helpful, because we don't know all the details here, to go to a trusted adult or to go to a professional or even to a teacher or to your own parent, and even maybe not using identifying words, but asking them for guidance and for support and for help. So that's the one situation where you feel like they will be reciprocal and they will accept, your caring words. But if it's the flip side where you feel like they won't listen to me, and if anything, it'll make things worse, and they'll go into more hiding because now I'm the one, that brought the secret out, then I would suggest that you get the support you need and the help you need. And going, again, to a trusted adult, to a teacher, to a professional, to a mashpia, if you have a mentor, going to someone who you can trust, who can guide you through the situation.
One thing I would just tack on to what Bashie said, I think that was very comprehensive, not much more that needs to be said. But one thing that is important to mention is that when you have a friend who is doing something in secret that they shouldn't be doing, and you feel responsible in a sense because your friend is you feel that it's harmful to your friend, and something that you shouldn't, that you not necessarily should be knowing. Keep in mind that when you're just thinking about and working up the courage to say something to your friend, that it's going to get worse before it gets better. That's just something that is important to know. A lot of times your friends will respond with anger and be very upset. No matter how loving or caring you say that this is coming from, the friends are going to be very upset. And it might take a long time for them to come around to recognize how much caring and love it took from you to be able to go against your feelings of harming the friendship and be able to say something. So just to keep that in mind, that, it might get a lot worse before it gets better, but it's still always worth it to say something, especially particularly if someone is in danger of harming themselves or others.
I had a friend once who was doing something in hiding, and it was definitely going to not harm them physically, but it was going to harm them spiritually in every way. And it takes a lot of strength, especially at, the stage of development as a teenager where, it takes a lot of courage to be able to call a friend on something or to be able to mention something that might, might shake up the friendship, especially when friendship is so important. And but at the same time, like Shua said, being a good friend is sometimes saying something that might rock the friendship, but it's being there for them. And I did have to say that once to someone who was really harming herself spiritually. And it was very difficult, but I did have support. I remember calling my mentor. And again, I myself only got a mashpia much later on in life. So this wasn't necessarily when I was a teenager, but it was very, very difficult to call her up and to say, to say, look, I'm not going to support you through this. It's really, really going to be harmful for you. And I, as a friend, I can't support you through this, but I'm saying this because I really care about you. And in the moment, again, she wasn't, saying, wow, you're the best friend ever. I'm so happy you brought this up. But later on, she did thank me. And if anything, it only cemented our friendship and made us a lot closer. At the same time, and I also want to mention that what gave me the strength to do this was something that my mashpia mentioned to me, my spiritual mentor. She said to me that the Rebbe said, Rabbi Schneerson, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, he said that years later, if we're not honest and open with someone, years later, and he said this about children, they'll come back to their parents, they'll come back to the teachers. And in this case, my mentor was telling me that years later, my friend might say to me, why didn't you tell me? Why weren't you there for me if you knew? And that really helped me to realize, what, this is the hardest thing to do. It's so not like me. I wouldn't say anything. I'd rather, just put it under the rug in that specific situation. And it pushed me to say it to her, to say the truth. And so wherever your friend is holding, and again, whether or not this is a physical action that she's doing that is harmful, or that shouldn't be done, the words that you used in your question, or whether it's a spiritual action, she will be thankful, she or he will be thankful that you as a friend brought this up. Again, even though it will rock the friendship, perhaps temporarily, or could affect it, but you know that you did the right thing and you were there as a good friend. Okay, here's our next question for this week. If Judaism is for my benefit, like they all say, you want to follow Torah because that's the ultimate good in life, yada, yada, yada. And I quote from the questioner, but what if there's other happiness that I want to choose right now? Why is that considered bad? I know that ultimately it's the best way to live, but right now it just doesn't sit right with me and I hate it. So why should I continue to follow? So I really feel like this question has so many parts to it. First of all, the yada 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 is kind of like, okay, I've heard this, everybody says it, it's been said so many times, I even want to, like the questioner, it sounds like I even want to just drown out those voices that are always saying, okay, follow Torah, it's the ultimate good in life. That's one part that I'm hearing. Another part is that Torah is not synonymous to happiness. If anything, the word, like the questioner saying, like, I hate it. That's a really strong emotion, right? To feel towards religion or just Torah or Judaism as being the right way to follow. And then the third part of the question that I think is, why should I even continue to follow it if I want to choose another way right now? Why can't I just go that other way? Is that considered bad?
Yeah, I hear those three parts of the question. One part in particular that I wanted to comment on is the fact that the word chosen was I hated. Just a comment on the hatred piece. It sounds like, in my experience, when there is hatred involved in religion, the hatred is not coming from religion itself. It's usually a result of people who are behaving badly and using religion as an excuse. And, a wonderful story that I heard to illustrate this point is that there was a Hasidic Rebbe who was talking to a person who stated that they don't believe in God. And after speaking to the person and hearing their story and the way that they were treated by different people and all the things that they had went through, this Hasidic Rebbe looked at the men and said, "The God that you do not believe in, I do not believe in either." In other words, the actions of people that are causing hatred are not representative of Judaism, and it's important to be able to separate the religion from the people who are using religion towards, negative ends. So that's one part that I think is important to mention.
It sounds like that's how the question is being asked, because you're saying that I know that ultimately it's the best way to live. So you know that it's the truth and that it's the best way to live and that it's the ultimate good, but it doesn't sit right with me right now and I hate it. So the fact that you know that Torah and Judaism is for your benefit and it is the best way to live, I wonder if what you're hating is not necessarily religion, Judaism, or following Torah, but maybe what you're hating is the fact that people are telling you how to live your life. Because you quoted, that they all say you want to follow Torah, it's the ultimate, yada, yada, yada. And again, going back to those literal words, yada, 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 and I am quoting the question itself, but that's kind of like this, what emotions that I'm hearing through your words is, it's annoying. People want to tell me what to do. They want to tell me how to live my life. Yes, I know it's okay, but right now I want to have a say in my own life. I want to feel in control. And maybe right now I don't want to follow what you're telling me to follow. So it goes back to what Shua was just saying, that the hatred doesn't sound like it's necessarily being, it's necessarily coming from, I hate Judaism, I hate Yiddishkeit, I hate Torah. I think that it's so false and I don't believe in it. You do believe that it's the ultimate good, but maybe what you're hating is the fact that people are telling you how to live your life and they're telling you what road to go down and you want to choose that road.
Yeah, and I think, the words that, what if there's other happiness that I want to choose? In other words, there's a lot of what you're saying that talks about the benefit of Judaism. I know that you want to follow Torah because it's ultimate good. Ultimately, it's the best way to live. And, that knowledge is still not enough for you to have you continue to follow it. In other words, even though I know that this is the best thing for me, what if I want to choose other happiness? And I think that there's something to be said about, I would be curious about what other happiness you're looking for that you don't seem to be able to find inside of a Torah way of life. In other words, and again, it feels like this might be something that has to do with the way that Yiddishkeit is being presented and the way that you feel restricted by Yiddishkeit, and not so much about Yiddishkeit itself. All of the different ways of expression that we have are found within the framework of living a Torah way of life. And the fact that you don't seem to, those two things seem exclusive, I think is more of a question on the way that Yiddishkeit is being presented than a question on Yiddishkeit itself.
And, when you finish with the question, why should I continue to follow? I'm curious, are you asking why should I continue to follow the people who are telling me what to do? Like, why should I continue to follow what they're telling me to do if I want that sense of freedom and that sense of control where I choose my happiness? I don't have other people tell me what will make me happy in life. Or is it, why should I continue to follow in God's ways? But I don't think you're asking that because you've already clarified that ultimately I know this is the best way to live.
The other piece that I think is important to mention here is that I think it's a very Western idea that the ultimate pursuit of life is happiness. Torah tells us many different examples of uncomfortable situations that lead to beautiful results. For example, Torah mentions many times the example of a coal, that when a coal is placed under tremendous pressure, it becomes a diamond. And so, working hard for something, toiling and going through discomfort to reach a reward. The other example that's given many, many times is that of birth. Birth is one of the most excruciating experiences a human being can go through. When women experience childbirth, it is the most painful thing that a person can experience. And yet a human being, a new life comes out from that. So, discomfort, when you're experiencing discomfort, many times that is a sign of growth. Looking at discomfort not as I need to get out of this, I can't stay in this situation anymore, but wow, I'm experiencing growth right now, being curious about what's going to come next.
It's funny because when we had our first child, I remember Shua told people, like, we had a baby, and then he'd stop and he'd say, no, I don't think there was any having on my end. So yes, childbirth, when he was describing it, especially going through very long labor. But yeah, to experience that, to have that diamond, it's definitely growing pains. And I also wanted to bring up from another angle that teenagers are at a stage of development where they're trying to, and I say this there, but we've also been teenagers too at one point in our life, where it's trying to find my journey, my road, who I am, and my independence, and what is important to me. What do I want to value and to take on? And it's a very, very normal stage of development. That's how Hashem created teenagers, at that stage in life. And so where you're holding and where you're coming from, the questions you're asking are very, very valid, given, that the stage in your life that you're at right now. And so what I hear is, I know that eventually this is something I want to go, this is the road I want to choose. But right now, I want to choose Judaism. I want to choose Torah. I want to feel and experience that this is happiness. This is the right way. And, why can't I choose something else right now? So, we're all given free choice. At the end of the day, everybody gets to choose. And even the people in your life who are telling you, this is the way of life, you want to follow Torah, that's the ultimate good, they chose Torah. Again, also like we mentioned in previous episodes, we can't choose if we're Jewish or not. If we're born to a Jewish mother, we're Jewish. But we do get to choose our Torah way of life, how observant we'll be, how much of Torah will we follow, how much of the mitzvahs will perform, or learning Torah, and all the choices that we're given in life, because we do have free choice. So the people in your life who are telling you this is the ultimate good, this is the way to go, that's because they've chosen it. They've experienced what they've experienced, whether it's that they are Baal Tshuvas, that they came back to Judaism and to, not to Judaism, but to religion, that they chose to become more religious. Or maybe it's someone who's been born religious and they're saying to you, look, this is the ultimate path. This is what's going to bring you happiness. And in your stage of life where you're going through high school, I don't know if you've been born into a religious family or not, but it's kind of at this place where don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me that this is the ultimate happiness, that this is what I should choose. I want to choose it because I feel connected to it, because this is the path that I want to go on. So I'm just trying to, come from that other angle, that you are exactly where you need to be. And the fact that you're saying that I want to choose this shows that you really care about it. The word hate is also a very strong word, but you wouldn't be hating it if you didn't care about it. You might use the word like, you'd be more apathetic. Like, I don't care about Judaism. I don't even care about Torah. I don't care about that path. But you're saying, no, I know this is a really good path, but right now I don't feel as strong as the adults or the people in my life that are telling me, hey, this is the ultimate good. They're saying that because they believe it and they know it and they want what's best for you. They care about you. They don't want you to have to maybe go through the whole journey of finding out that this is the best for you. They're saying, look, it's here. This is the best thing for you. And in a way, you're pushing back and saying, hold on, I want to discover that on my own. I want to be the one to decide that this is my happiness. This is what I want to choose and where I want to be. And again, happiness, people feel, like Shua was saying, they feel like it's a destination. It's something that I'm trying to find and eventually I'll be there. But happiness is a result of being at peace with myself. So the fact that you're sending in this question, which is awesome, and that's why Jewish Teen Talk is here, to encourage questions like these, and any question that you have will be addressed and recognized. You're saying you're recognizing that this is a question in your life, and this is something that you do care about, that you want to feel content about and at peace with, because happiness, again, is just being at peace with ourselves, being at peace with the situation we're in right now, and not having to run away from it. But maybe it's more about how can you be content or be okay with being brought up with these figures around you that are telling you that Torah is the ultimate good, without having to necessarily run away from it.
So while I can definitely see that this question was written by a teenager, the substance and content of the question is something that everyone struggles with. And I think it's important, and just want to conclude with this idea, that it's important to keep in mind that our relationship to Torah and to Judaism is not so much about following what other people are telling me, even though that's definitely what it seems like when you are a teenager and struggling with authority, or when people are using Torah for their own means and they're requiring you to follow their arbitrary rules that have nothing to do with Torah. It may seem like Torah is all about compliance or listening or doing what you're told, but this is a crucial point to keep in mind, that Torah is really about our relationship with Hashem. And your relationship with Hashem is one that is unique to you. And, talking about happiness, what we do know is that there cannot be any happiness without exploring and deepening and intensifying and connecting to our essential oneness, which is our connection to Hashem. So with that in mind, I'd like to ask everyone to please keep sending in your questions to jewishteentalk.com. You can send them in anonymously, and we'll keep exploring these questions in future episodes.
Thank you so much to all our listeners for joining in this week. And we look forward to our future episodes, which will include boys and girls alike, because this podcast is for Jewish teens like you. And we really encourage the questions coming in. Like Shua said, they can be submitted anonymously.
See you next week. Take good care, everyone.